Oh, hey mate. We haven't met in a while, and by a while I mean over 1 month. So, if you want, take a walk with me. Since the last episode, I had a period of about 2 weeks where I really struggled with motivation. I've been on vacation with my family over Christmas and New Year's Eve, spending the days with quality time together. Going into 2026, I looked back at the previous episodes and started working on some ideas for this one. And let me tell you something. We are back. Maybe this world was untouched for over 1 month, but with this video, we're going to change the direction and aim for massive progress. And do you know why this feels so good? Because in this hardcore world, we have forever. Before getting to the part where things get real in this video, I wanted to clean up some mess from the latest episode. In episode 3, I built an improvised iron farm to keep my emerald flow going from trading. But this farm was way off from what I actually wanted to create in this world, in terms of architectural style. So I decided to open one of the 3 gates in the trading hall. My goal was to create a tunnel leading directly to an iron farm, while also giving enough space for future farms of all kinds. That means my plan is to build every future farm needed for a project right in this central spot. Of course, there are some farms that can be built in the overworld or underground. But for those that do fit here, this will be their home, to keep everything compact and efficient. After tunneling for a few blocks to get a little lower, I began constructing the walls, trying to keep the same style as the trading hall. I just love the combination of spruce and deep slate, I am not gonna lie. To finish the first tunnel, I constructed the ceiling with a nice arch, leading straight into a chamber with 3 additional paths for future farms, so we are not dependent on a single tunnel. I finished the chamber with the color palette I used before and then started working on the iron farm and the surrounding walls again. After struggling to get the villagers out of the old farm and transporting them across the cave to their new spot, I wasted a good amount of time trying to figure out what kept breaking the farm and stopping iron golems from spawning consistently. I took a short break, sorted my thoughts. In the end, I decided to rebuild the farm and keep it more simple. And just like that, the farm started working again. Of course, this isn't 1,000 of iron ingot per hour farm, but when building it the first time I realized something important. It's not the size of the farm that matters, it's the consistency. In the last episode I realized why the farm stopped working. Villagers need to have slept within the last 20 minutes to spawn iron golems. But the constant danger of the zombie blocked their sleep cycle. That meant I had to manually close the trapdoors from time to time to keep the spawning going. I wanted to fix this and came up with the idea of using a daylight sensor. When it turns night, pistons lower the zombie by 1 block, blocking the villagers' line of sight so they can sleep. When daylight returns, the zombie moves back up and golems start spawning again. Maybe this is a bit overcomplicated, but I wanted to solve it myself. Let me know in the comments if you know a better solution, maybe we will revisit this in a future episode. For now though, I needed a daylight sensor and quickly realized there was only one thing I desperately needed. Nether quartz. The only problem, we haven't been to the Nether yet. At this point, I had a clear goal for this episode. We're going to enter the Nether. In style. Without wasting any time, I grabbed everything I needed from the starter house and traveled through the forest to the area I already had in mind from the very beginning of this episode. Arriving there, I took a short moment to inspect the area from above and then began removing one side of the mountain to create a flat area, opening up more possibilities for today's build. Oh, hi! I think we got an interested guest on our building site. Maybe or hopefully he stays after we finish this project. Good luck, guy. I dug for several days and nights and finally finished the work, leaving behind an open space ready for the real magic. No, not that kind of magic, but it had to be done. Diorite, tuff, obsidian, andesite, deep slate, and mostly importantly, moss. I returned to the mountain and started outlining the lower cliffside. Then extended it upwards using a block palette that gradually gets brighter as you go higher. Oh, and I think I have invited more guests to this party after the fox, but unlike the fox, I really hope they stay away from this build after finishing it. So yeah, away with you. At this point I realized something big. Building without schematics or creative pre-builds is way more demanding than taking the easy route with mods. But I just can't bring myself to do that. What's the point of pre-building something, pasting it in with schematics, collecting a block list and then just placing it? In my opinion, that's not what a true survival world is about. Without devaluing the absolute majestic builds other people create that way. So I decided to stick to the most vanilla playstyle possible. Maybe that results in some imperfect builds, but that's part of the charm. I continued collecting moss by transforming stone with bone meal and used it to create mossy cobblestone, blending the upper moss and grass platform more naturally. After finishing the base of the platform, I realized I needed even more moss and came to the conclusion that I would eventually need nether resources for an observer. Again, it was nether quartz. Perfect for a future moss farm. With enough moss collected, I filled the platform with a mix of grass and moss to avoid a flat, boring texture. Before starting the main build, I wanted the mountain itself to be a proper background, so I added another cliff, small platforms for future vegetation and a path leading upwards. One last site, one last blend, from deep slate to tuff to stone to moss. So guys, we just finished a cliff side on this build and I think for my first ever cliff build it turned out pretty okay. I'm not completely done yet, I still want to add more like details, foliage, trees and pathways, but climbing this mountain, this custom mountain with that view honestly makes me proud. I started at the lower platform, replacing the moss on the way up the mountain with a variation of coarse dirt, mud bricks and spruce wood. This helped create a more natural path leading to the top. To bring more life to the mountain, I added more foliage to the stony cliffs, oak and spruce leaves, as well as glowberries to add a bit of light. And speaking of life, one of my favorite additions to this build, custom-made spruce trees. Oh yes, I think this turned out pretty amazing. I just finished the first 5 custom spruce trees and I think the view from down here really shows why this was so important. This adds so much more life to what was just a plain hill before, stretching from the lower part all the way up to the very top, where I placed 2 more of them. And oh yes, you're not supposed to be here anymore. We've got this tree sitting right in front of the platform and the plan from now on is to add a few more trees at the bottom. I'm going to mark the sections where the trees will be. I think there's room for 3 more. With an already practiced routine for building these trees, I added the final 3 at the spots I already marked before. The trees are done and I'm extremely satisfied with the result. I mean, just look at them and now it's finally time for the main part of this video. Because we desperately want to go to the Nether, so I already made a plan for what to build and because of the space left, this is where the center of the build will be. And I'm starting with this block palette to create my second statue in this world. I began by sketching the rough shape of the statue using stone, building each section, feet, legs and so on separately. Okay, I'll be honest, this is not how I thought this would turn out. After finishing one of the legs, I realized that building each section separately just isn't going to work. It feels way too blocky and the only solution in my opinion is to start from scratch. So yeah, I think I'm going to demolish the whole thing and rebuild it layer by layer. yeah, I hope to get a better feeling while building for the overall shape. I cleared everything for a clean start and began again, this time building layer by layer. Quick checkup, I really like covering the edges with stone walls. It feels like adding folds to the trousers and already brings much more life into the build. The shoes are okayish, but I think I will add basalt or brick walls for more depth. And yeah, this on both sides I think. Reaching the middle part of the statue already felt way better than the first attempt, so I continued with the upper body, still building layer by layer. I finished it off with a head wearing a helmet. I didn't have a specific style in mind when building the head, but in the end it turned into a dwarven warrior theme, which I decided to fully embrace. Don't tell me this doesn't look absolutely phenomenal from this perspective. So I'm done with the legs, torso, the head, and honestly it turned out better than I expected. Let's take a quick look from above. Yeah, that works too. Solid shape and a good shading with the blocks I used. And now I think we can finally begin with the Nether portal itself. I already collected all the resources I would need, so we don't waste any time. After realizing the statue had turned into a dwarf, I wasn't 100% confident about my original Nether portal idea. I had planned to build it as a sword, stuck into the ground in front of the statue. An axe would have been more fitting for a dwarf, but shaping a portal into an axe felt way too difficult, so I stuck with the sword idea. And honestly, I wasn't disappointed. Okay, even if this isn't the classic axe a dwarf would carry, I'm really confident leaving it like this. It turned out to be a perfect sword in my opinion, especially with the Nether portal integrated into it. So, if you have any ideas for changes, just let me know in the comments. Maybe I will change the head later to more like, a nighty theme. But for now, I don't want to touch it and I will move on to the final part, building the arms. I started by placing tough bricks around the handle of the sword to create a solid looking hand gripping it. From there I continued building the arm up to the shoulder. While working on it, I noticed how difficult it is to make an arm look natural when you are standing right next to it, instead of viewing it from a distance. For the left arm I wanted to try something different. Because of the lore of an ancient statue, I decided to give it a broken look, as if the arm had snapped off over time. I'm finally done with the statue itself, including both arms. And especially from this spot I think it turned out really nice. You can't see everything from behind, but looking back at the recordings, it definitely does its job. Oh, and once again, I absolutely love the view from down here. It really gives me that feeling of immersion and shows how tiny I am as a player. Wow, yeah, I will take it. Okay, and next I wanted to continue the lore by adding fragments of the broken arm. The idea is that the arm was found long ago and instead of leaving it there, it was recycled into sword-shaped totems scattered across the area. So that's the part I will work on for the next few minutes. I immediately got to work, placing different swords of different sizes made from deep slate all around the area, leading all the way up to the biggest sword, acting as an eye-catcher on the highest point of the build. Besides the finished sword, just look at that sunrise. Wow. Yeah, I think moments like this really make it feel like everything is coming together. That's why I added fragments of deep slate between the statue and the first sword to increase the immersion. And honestly, I think it helped both the lore and the overall atmosphere a lot. One step closer to finishing the project, I continued by adding foliage to the statue itself. Leaves, glowberries and vines covered the build, giving it an abandoned ancient look. So guys, foliage done, and this was a very important step. The statue doesn't look as clean anymore, and it definitely helps hide some of the mistakes I made while building without templates or any mods. And for the final step, it's time to give the statue a proper base. So I already built the statue itself one block above ground level, so I have the opportunity to add a little more depth with the base itself. And I think this is the perfect spot for the center block. Yes, we will place it here, so let's go. I built the base layer by layer from the inside using a variation of deep slate and tuff. finishing the outside with slabs and stairs. To prevent unwanted mob spawns, I lit up the area with simple lanterns and waited for nightfall. And for the final moment of this episode, I combined iron and flint and took one last look before walking downhill toward the moment I had been waiting for almost 500 days. It felt mystical. I remembered where we started nearly 500 days ago, and I realized how lucky we were to secure such a majestic landscape from a random seed. And I couldn't help but wonder, can we get that lucky again? In the Nether? There's only one way to find out. And here I am, right in the middle of the red hell where so many players have lost their life and their hardcore worlds. I can't say if we got lucky with the terrain, but I was definitely relieved to make it here alive. I focused on my mission, collecting nether quartz for the future farms. I left exploration for a future episode. But even while roaming just the first chunks, I already spotted a bastion, or at least part of one, right next to the nether portal. Before mining the quartz, I grabbed some grilled pork and then got to work. After collecting what I needed, I left the nether, hoping to finish this episode before hitting more than 500 days. Back in the overworld, I was greeted by another beautiful sunrise. Oh, this is great! I didn't even realize how good the shaders would look on the nether portal, and especially on the purple shades. All the different shades on every different block type. Wow, okay, I'm pretty stunned. Still overwhelmed by the visuals, I traveled back to the farm tunnel behind the trading hall to finish the last task of this episode. So, before starting construction, I already crafted all the materials I needed for the automated moss farm and put it into this chest. So for now I'm going to dig out a room right next to the iron farm. Let's go, maybe we can finish this build before hitting 500 days. I hollowed out the room and followed the tutorial for the moss farm. Not just rebuilding it, but to actually understand the mechanics behind it. And honestly, that's what following a tutorial should be about. The farm started working and I waited for it to produce its first stacks of bone meal and moss. We hit 500 days. But stop, no time to celebrate. I just realized I completely forgot to fix the iron farm with the sleep cycle issue while working on the moss farm. But to be honest, that sounds like a problem for future Mojang in the next episode, so from now on we will leave it for the next part. And with this, episode 4 comes to an end. Thank you so much for following this journey up to this point. I really hope you enjoyed it and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next episode. If you want to support the series, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. It really helped me with the algorithm. Cheers!